ourselves here at the start of a hefty program to pave the way for greater consciousness towards the promulgation of an Access to Information Act. There are also questions, is it really necessary? We have dealt with some of them at a breakfast meeting this morning, and then only last Friday, stakeholders met here in Windhoek to highlight the need of a related law, namely a law to protect persons that have the civil courage to report evidence of corruption to the relevant authorities. A law which should encourage more people who know of the rot in their midst, in our midst, to take heart and report and expose. The Access of Information Act is obviously, there are people who may question, is it necessary in a country which by, I talk about Namibia, which by the organization the Reporters Without Frontiers is rated as the country topping the ranks of all in Africa if it comes to freedom of the media. We take note of this amongst the editors of this ranking with some astonishment and some pride, but I add immediately we are convinced that none of my colleagues and the media fraternity can be prompted thereby to rest on our laurels. So I wish you all fruitful deliberations, and it's my honor to invite Ambassador Milani to the microphone.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Hoffman. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Deputy High Commissioner, dear members of the media, dear guests, workshop participants, ladies and gentlemen. I am honored to be with you here today, addressing journalists exclusively, which doesn't happen often in my work. But we are here because you are now required to be a catalyst and not a messenger. By the end of today, you will have enhanced your capacity to have direct influence on policy development in your country, which is not a responsibility one usually associates journalists with. The European Union delegation to Namibia agreed to support the Action Namibia campaign because we believe that access to information is an integral part of the fundamental right to freedom of expression, as recognized by Resolution 59 of the UN General Assembly adopted in 1946, as well as by Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that the fundamental right of freedom of expression encompasses the freedom to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. Access to information influences the public's ability to, very importantly, access their fundamental rights, such as the right to education and health. As such, it is also a tool to access information regarding the usage of development assistance. Not long ago, my office received a query from a UK-based newspaper on whether the EU funding is used to build the proposed regional state houses. The answer to that question is no, the EU does not. But the fact that the question was brought to me made me reflect on the media's role as a watchdog. EU citizens have the right to know how their contribution to development assistance is used, and the media are an important stakeholder in ensuring access to such information. Access to information is not only a right for citizens, but is also an important tool for governments to monitor and evaluate the implementation of government programs. In a democratic country, media act as an interface between the government and the citizens, transmitting ideas, checking efficiency, and at the end, ensuring ownership and legitimacy. In many other countries, as in many other countries, Namibia also faces a challenge with corruption. Here, the free flow of information acts as a lightning bulb. It exposes the right and the wrongdoing and allows the government to identify and address shortcomings in public management when exposed. This is why investigative journalism is important. Were it not for the media, we may still be in the dark about many things. Access to information legislation would provide you with an enhanced opportunity to obtain knowledge and information that is in the public's interest and allow you to play your watchdog role more effectively. But let us not forget that with your right, in this case, your right to access to information, comes a responsibility. Freedom of the press is subjected to the principles of ethical journalism. Too often, bad journalism has been used to justify a clampdown on the freedom of the press. Ladies and gentlemen, the media community in Namibia can be proud of the fact that your industry consistently fares very well in terms of press freedom ratings. You are currently #1 in Africa. This is because you have a government that recognizes the importance of a free, diverse, and pluralistic media industry as a cornerstone for democracy. And you have media industry leaders that recognize this as well, hence the continuous progress we witness in the industry. The establishment of the Office of the Media Ombudsman is a great achievement that solidified Namibia as a country with an admirable media industry. It is here, in Windhoek, that the Windhoek Declaration on Press Freedom was crafted. It was later adopted by the UN. One would thus expect the Namibian media industry to continue being a trailblazer on the African continent and beyond. I would like to thank the Media Institute of Southern Africa and its partners for this initiative and express my hope that it will result in concerted action towards the achievement of access to information legislation. And my written speech comes to here. I also wanted to, off the record, share a few ideas with you. Diplomats and journalists are often seen as enemies, but are friends because they play in the same turf. We deal with information, we deal with the interest in the public good, and we share some degree of influence as regards public action. In this condition, as a friend and as a colleague of you, I have the same wish and the same difficulty sometimes to get to the information in Namibia. I think Namibia would benefit from reinforcing the culture of openness, to improve the capacity of the public bodies to offer information, and of course also to reinforce the responsibility of both the media, also the diplomatic missions, to use this information responsibly. In sum, the question is that it would be, we understand it would be for the benefit of all of us that the government and the public bodies of Namibia would be able to tell their story. The European Union bodies invest heavily in providing information for the journalists. Every commissioner has a spokesperson service. The European Parliament has a massive media service with sectors for every item of European interest, different sectors also for every language. The Council of Ministers of the European Union has its own press service, so I can tell you that at the end, in Brussels, it is more difficult to get a journalist to tell you a story than to have a story to tell. So we do have the experience, and it can be done. To do it, we really need to enhance the capacity and to introduce this culture of openness I was talking about. I would finally want to encourage you. You are a leading country in Africa as regards the press, the freedom of the press, but it's leaders who lead. So it is for you to break ground as regards access of information. I think this conference will be a good opportunity for you to share your experiences. I will be myself, my colleagues from the European Union member states, and Susanna, Natasha, we will be around. We are very happy to be part of this experience, and we are ready to support you in any way. Thanks a lot.
At this juncture, I leave you in the capable hands of the facilitators of this training. I will just be an observer. Karen Mukelani. Hopefully you all enjoy it so much that you will be writing about it for the next 5 years until we have the law in place.
Good morning, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here with you today to speak about this very important issue on access to information. I'd really like to thank the EU Embassy for coming on board on this issue. And it's really fantastic to see some senior journalists here as well. Also, thank you to our fellow facilitators from ODAC and IPPR who are here today to help us out with this issue. In terms of what we're going to do in this session, it's going to be quite interactive. I think it's important for us to get an idea on a practical level in terms of, as working journalists, why do we need access to information in Namibia, and why is it important to your role? Firstly, we'd like to actually get everybody to introduce themselves, I think. just so that we know who's here and where you're from, before we start with our discussions. So perhaps we can just hand this around and get everybody to introduce themselves.
Shall we start?
I'm Graham Hopwood, the Executive Director of the Institute for Public Policy Research, one of the groups organising the next few days and participating in the action campaign.
My name is Kate, I'm a journalist from Base FM, is a community radio.
Hi, my name is Sheena Magenya. I'm a freelance journalist based in Windhoek, Namibia, but I'm here representing Sister Namibia.
My name is Dosia Shiganuna. I am representing Prime Focus.
Morning, my name is Jemima Beekes. I'm a reporter at the Village and newspaper.
Morning, my name is Nielsen Yoro. I'm from NBC Report.
Yes, good morning. My name is Victor Kavinyeti. I'm a journalist by training. I'm also a lawyer by training. I'm currently working as a trade unionist. And I'm here as a trade unionist.
Next slide.
Hello, my name is Sanjay Genesis. I'm representing SIDA, Community Environment
Hello, my name is Farah Tsuka and I'm representing the United
Good morning, my name is Maria Emmanuel and I'm from the Meat Board of Namibia. I'm not a journalist by profession, I'm an economist, but I'm doing most of the beef or meat performance annual reports and reports of the Meat Board. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Menesia Muino. I am a journalist by profession, but I have now taken on media manager role.
Good morning, my name is Ubika Wale Upi. I'm also a journalist by profession. I'm here representing NBC Corporate Affairs.
Hello, I'm Catherine Sassman with the Namibian newspaper.
My name is Levi Kabwato. I'm with MISA.
Good morning, my name is Nell. I'm with MISA.
Morning everybody, my name is Jacqueline Chikakano. I'm with the African Platform on Access to Information campaign.
Morning, my name is Elizabeth Mule. I represent the Editors Forum.
Good morning, my name is Bibo Bonfas Msowa. I'm with the Media Institute of Southern Africa. Thank you.
Good morning, Robin Tyson, lecturer in Media Studies at the University of Namibia.
Okay, well, thank you all for your introductions. I'm sure we'll get to know you all a bit better as time goes on. Before we start discussions in terms of why you think that Namibian needs access to information or how it's actually going to help you in your profession, Mr. Mukalani Dumba is going to give us just a bit of a background in terms of different perspectives from developing countries. So I'm going to hand over to him.
Thanks, Karen. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to realize and discover that this is a multi-sectoral group. We have trade unionists, lawyers, journalists, people from the private sector, people from NGOs, the diplomatic corps. It's a very good, diverse group to have, and I'm quite excited by it because I think our different perspectives on this issue will inform how we move forward. It will inform what this campaign does. What I would like to do, just very quickly, is to give the lay of the land with regards to access to information in the continent and to some extent in the rest of the world. But obviously there will be a strong focus on what is happening closer to home. In some of the work that I have done, I encountered a very interesting linguistic issue in Tanzania, where I was informed that in Kiswahili, the word that you use for government is serikali. But then this word also has a different meaning. It also means a big secret. So I find it very interesting that you have a situation where a word, one word, means two different things which can actually be very contradictory in nature. But I think it captures the perspective around how we as Africans view the issue of access to information, how we view our government. I come from Durban in South Africa, where growing up I was told that the government is a big man that lives in Pretoria, that determines what happens to us as people. You were never ever given an impression of government as an institution that is there to facilitate your growth and development as a citizen. And I think in all the work that I have done, it seems to be a common perspective, a common impression. The government is something that is removed from the people, something that operates in secret. And I think as our countries make this transition from one-party states, from dictatorships, from apartheid, there is this challenge of how do we transform our societies from closed and secretive societies to open societies. And I think the idea behind that is because we have seen how secrecy encourages abuse of human rights, it encourages corruption to thrive, it creates problems of delivery of public services and developmental opportunities, or access to developmental opportunities. And I think this is the motivation that a lot of those of us involved in this work are trying to change the situation, to change the system such that the democracy and all the benefit that it brings has a tangible meaning in people's lives. Traditionally, this is how government would respond to requests for information. There would be suppression of access to information on a number of issues, not just on political issues, on social issues and economic issues. You were told that there is no such thing as a right to information. Information is a privilege. It's given on a need-to-know basis. Particularly security operations, they were always shrouded in secrecy. You never knew how big the army was, how much the army is spending, how much of the budget is being used in security operations. All of that was kept a secret. And then there would obviously be the usual harassment, the usual intimidation, when somebody was confident enough to step forward and ask difficult questions. You would be really intimidated, or you'd be giving intentionally wrong information in order to discourage you from knowing what government is doing. And therefore, the challenge that we are facing in a number of African countries is how do you create this link between what government is doing at a macro level and how people are experiencing public policy at a micro level. Can people influence what government does? And I think the idea is that people cannot do so unless they've got access to information about what is being planned. You can't influence public policy if you don't know what the options that are being considered are. And therefore, freedom of information occupies that space, that link between what government does and what people on the ground actually feel, what their aspirations are. It's only when people are informed about what government is planning to do that they'll be able to influence public policy. Now, a number of countries across the world have put in place laws that will give effect to the right of access to information, or that will provide people with the mechanisms and the means to access information legally. We are all following from the Swedish example, with Sweden being the first country in the world to adopt a legislation that addresses issues of access to information. And this was done in 1766. Now, just to give an example of what the possibilities are if you have an access to information. I had a privilege to study the Swedish system. And after months and months of being told how open Sweden is, how everything is peachy, everything is done in the sunshine. I wanted to test the system. So me and a group of colleagues, we had a meeting at the Ministry of Justice in Sweden. And it just happens that the ministry is at the same building as the Prime Minister's office. What better opportunity of testing the system that people are saying is the most open system in the world? So we marched up to the Prime Minister's office. And we requested to read the Prime Minister's email. Can anyone guess what the response was? No? A lot of people are saying no. We're told no. The response was, would you like to read today's email or yesterday's email? At which point because some of us pretending to be journalists, even though we're not journalists. At which point we said, okay, we're going to catch them out. We know if they say, do you want today's email or yesterday's email, they're going to give us public relations fluff. So we said, no. Actually, we want to be very specific. We want to read all the letters written by President Nelson Mandela of South Africa to the Prime Minister of Sweden, and all the letters written in response by the Prime Minister of Sweden to the President, the former President of South Africa. The lady that was helping us went out there and gave us, printed 27 letters that were given to us. We were shocked because that is something that you cannot do in South Africa. Maybe in Namibia you can do it, can you? No? No? Okay, look, let's not talk about then the Prime Minister of Sweden. Let's talk about the National Director of MISA. Can you march into your office and demand to read things or files? Probably not, I don't know. Maybe Karen would know. But even with me, with my own leadership at ODEC, it would be difficult for me to just march in and say, hey, how about your email? What I'm trying to show is that we have a different perspective to what access to information is about. We generate files and documents, and we think we own those. While the African Commission on Human and People's Rights says governments hold information not for themselves, but as custodians for the people. So the information that is generated does not belong to you or I. It belongs to every one of us. Obviously, there will be some limitations. But I wanted to mention the Swedish example because it's a clear example that shows what is possible if the mental frame, if the framework, if the paradigm is shifted to that of openness, you can have situations like that happen in Sweden. We are still far from that. So in terms of the enactment of laws, this is the global situation. All the countries in green are the countries that have adopted access to information laws. And you can see that Africa is a bit light in color. This is because very few African countries have adopted access to information laws. Just to give you a comprehensive list, these are the countries that have done so thus far. In South Africa, Uganda, Angola, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Liberia, Guinea, Conakry, Ethiopia, and Tunisia. But there's a caveat to what I want to say. And the caveat is, even though these countries have adopted access to information laws, very few of them are implementing these laws, particularly in the case of Angola. And in some instances, the law is implemented such that it violates the right of access to information, as in the case of Zimbabwe.